Okay. So, I'm I'm assuming that most quinceañeras have a vals. Maybe not all of them. But if you know, is it something that is like required? Do you have to have a vals, or what is the main function of this? What's the purpose in general of having a vals, in your opinion?
To me personally, it is required. It just the vals is. I think the important part of that is when you dance with your father, and it doesn't have to be your father. I know a lot of people usually if they didn't have like a father figure, they do like or they didn't have a father, they use someone who's like a father figure.
Okay.
Or sometimes, for example, there's someone my best friend. She didn't have her father at all when she grew up, so who she danced with was with her mom. So
Okay.
that's sweet. I think so in general what the vals signifies it's like this is my dance. I made it to 15. Look, and it's whoever you dance with. Like I'm here like to make you proud.
Awesome. So it's also a way of like entertaining the crowd,
Yes.
entertaining yourself, and pretty much like, hey, I am now presenting myself in front of all you people
Yes.
as this wonderful woman that I've now accepted. That I'm now not a little girl, but I've grown up, I'm grown now,
Yes. Yes.
So I understand now that what's going on with that and how the VADS pretty much signifies like, hey, I'm presenting myself to everybody in my crowd and thank you all for being here and
Yes.
I'm dancing with this person and hey, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you for being my partner
Yeah,
in this dance.
usually who you dance with is someone that you know. Like it's
Yeah.
supposed to be like I said, like the figure,
Yeah.
like the father figure, someone that's important in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that there's typically your chambelanes will either be your friends or your cousins or
Yes.
family members or very well known people. You don't just have random people in your
Yeah.
quinceañera. And I want to ask you one more thing. I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this previously, but so the idea of having a boyfriend and having a boy part of your quinceañera, what is the idea of that? Like, what's the idea of now being able to have a boyfriend?
Well, I think it's well when you turn okay. So before you turn 15, the reason so this is like the my abuelita would say like no the girls who turn 15 like they don't have boyfriends. So before they turn 15, so 13 it's like no mija like no boyfriend until you're 15. So it's supposed to be like so when you turn 15 it's like wow like since now I'm becoming a woman so I can do women things now like have a boyfriend and that's another step too. It's a sweet thing. Within that though, like I mentioned earlier, with me it was like the father dance, and I know like for example in the wedding there's gonna be like the father dance, but then you're gonna have like the husband dance. So it's sweet to correlate these big celebrations together and see like the similarities that goes within that. So going back to that, so a boyfriend though, I think that's it's sweet to show like look world I'm old enough and mature enough to have a boyfriend now too.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, because it's almost like I think of this tradition as like having the idea that you are now allowed to be in contact with your sexual life
Yes.
and feel like you now have validation in being able to not only be a woman and carry yourself and being able to take up on roles and goals of somebody who's already a grown woman, of course, but like be the idea that well, look at let's be plain
Yes,
and simple. You are now
exactly.
15. You
Boom.
can be in contact with your sexual side, have a boyfriend, have sex, like
Yes.
enjoy yourself as a woman, explore yourself. It's kind of like the idea like well, before you were 15, you were told no, 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 like restriction. What about this idea of being a virgin?
So actually, in fact, it's something that has. So my grandparents did it, and then my mom, she actually so the virgin. There's my mom brought a picture from Mexico from when she got married, and she so it was in Mexico, and she was like, hey, send it down here. So my grandma brought it over here. She put it in the sala in the living room. She was like, look, and if I got married a virgin, I want you to get married a virgin too. So I think in general, so now going back to a quinceañera, being a virgin when you're a quince, like when you're 15 years old, it just proves like, look, I was a virgin before this, now I'm 15, and which actually, and I think like now trying to like, so like the conversion, Seeing it now, if you really think about it, 15 is kind of young. You're like, wait, 15 years old. You're kind of young at that age. But back then, they used to get married really, really young. Like my grandma got married at 17.
Oh wow.
And my other grandma got married at 16. So that just shows like, oh, 15, she turned 15, 16 right away. Like she got married. But when she was and in general, so 15, virgin, and then 16, so then she got married a virgin. My mom, the same thing. So she turned 15, virgin, and then she got married a virgin. And now she's like, Anai, you're next. Like,
yeah.
So I was 15, like a virgin, and then now she's like, and now I want to see you married, being a virgin. So it's kind of like, so in general, like virginity, to me, well, that's basically that's
purity.
Purity, yeah.
Pretty much the idea that you are clean. You are not touched, you are pure, you're still innocent.
Yes.
The idea that white can represent purity, innocence, all that stuff. Interesting. Awesome. Okay, so now that we're done with the waltz and the idea of having a boyfriend and the idea of being in contact with your sexual life, and the idea that you're now growing up, I want to move on to more like the ritual feeling of the quinceañera. So like la misa. What's the misa?
So to me, the misa is an agradecimiento. So it's a thank you, God. I lived 15 years, so thank you for this. So that's how I see it, un agradecimiento.
So it's like you're being thankful to your, it's more of a religion type of ritual where you go into the church, there's a special mass dedicated for you and the fact that you are now completing 15 years of age. And who's usually invited? Who's your audience? Who is this misa for?
So whenever I invited everyone in the same invitation, it came like with the time. So it was anyone who was invited to the actual quinceañera, to like the party. They were invited to the misa too.
Yeah. So
everyone who I invited were close. They were my family members, close friends. So everyone who was invited was someone special to me.
Okay. And then pretty much overall, the purpose of La Misa and what it meant to you and your culture is basically like you're coming to church, you're having a special ritual mass where you're going to appreciate and thank God for giving you the time and the chance to live up to 15 years. Okay, awesome. And then, I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions. Question number 6, las zapatillas. I just want to go, we could go briefly on these things. There's a lot. But las zapatillas, what do they mean? Are they expensive?
No, actually, and this is a really sweet part too. The zapatilla, so my dad bought for me. Zapatillas. They were not expensive. They were white and they had diamonds on it, and so fake diamonds. So that they were not expensive at all. But yeah.
You said your dad bought it for you?
Bought them, yeah.
Your dad bought them for you. Okay, awesome. And then, so when I was reading or from previous experiences, is there a certain moment where you are supposed to wear that?
Okay, yes. So with me and my quinceañera, when I walked into the misa, I did not have my high heels. I had my flats. So whenever I was at the dance, it was like flats. It wasn't until we presented the waltz, and like within that, my dad, so I sat down. They brought me a chair. I sat down, and he took off my flat and put my high heel on. So it was kind of like, well, look, off goes your flats, and here goes your high heel. So that's another representation or like symbol of like, okay, well, here you're becoming a woman. Here's your high heels now.
Yeah, it's also the idea that, older women, it's the idea that when you're a little girl, you're not allowed to wear makeup.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to wear high heels.
Yes.
You're not allowed to have boyfriends.
Yes,
It's all this, all these little symbols that pretty much represent a woman. And how here, we're giving them to you, they're yours. You are now a woman.
Exactly.
Now, like, having these artifacts are kind of like representations of your phases, You, the Mona, you were a baby girl.
Yes.
The zapatillas, you were now a woman. It's really interesting to hear all that stuff. And what does in general, the zapatillas just mean like your transition.
Yes,
in
it does.
general. And they
Transition into a
serve
woman.
to show. Their purpose is to just show people. Well, look I'm wearing high heels.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
now,
Like now, and actually, in fact, the rest of the night I wore high heels. So it is kind of like, yeah. And before that, I was like, no, you can't wear high heels, or you can't do this, or fake nails. No.
Yeah.
Like all that is like no. And then after that, it's like, well, you're a woman now, so you can wear high heels, you can makeup, and your hair. In fact, before that, I couldn't dye my hair. It was kind of like no, virgin everything. And then like after that, and it was kind of like, well, why not? And so like in the pictures, if you see that my hair is brown, it's my natural hair color, and now it's like. So I think I just kind of like after that I was like boom, and then I dyed it like after that I dyed it red, and I dyed it platinum blonde, and now I have it blonde. So it's kind of like it's kind of showing like, well, okay, if I couldn't before, now I can, and watch me.
So it's kind of like your moment to shine.
Exactly.
And show people.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we had talked very little about this. It was Los Padrinos and what they do and what do they mean. How many did you have?
So I had so many. I had I couldn't be able to tell you, but I had a lot of padrinos. I mean, I can count them right now. I had the padrinos. Okay, so what padrinos are basically is sponsors.
Mention a couple. Oh, they're like sponsors.
They're like sponsors, yeah. So I had my padrinos who baptized me when I was a baby. So those are my godparents, yes. But then I had my padrinos who sponsored like their part. So for example, I had one for the cake. So it was padrinos for the cake. I had padrinos for the food. I had padrinos for el grupo. So the band, there was, and actually it wasn't like one, it was a few people who like they all pitched in money, and it was like, all right, here's for this. So I had a lot of sponsors. In fact, like it was really sweet. Everyone put in their part, and then there was the padrinos for the postres and the padrinos within the misa. There's certain, I had like the padrinos for the crown, which my padrinos who baptized me were the ones who gave me my crown too. So that was another sweet thing. So I had a lot of padrinos, but those were the important ones.
Yeah, because thinking of how much it would cost to have a quinceañera.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I thought I had off of research that I've seen. I believe like the minimum could be almost like 12,000.
Yes, 12,000. Yeah,
so I would assume that your sponsors, los padrinos, would be like your sponsors, people who are significant to you as well, and people that you know, who are gonna contribute with money to help this celebration come through completely.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I have a couple of things. Number 8, el vestido. How did you choose it? The colors. I just want to know like your explanation of the colors. Maybe what does it mean? And why do you have to get a vestido?
Okay. So basically, el vestido. It was mentioned earlier. So I had 2 cousins before me. I was the 3rd quinceañera in the family. So my first cousin had a white dress, completely white dress, which signifies purity, yes,
virginity.
So exactly. So it was kind of like, all right, that was the first quinceañera, and she had that. So it was at that time. And then the next like time comes, and it's like it's my cousin, and with her this is when the quinceañera of the light pink dress got introduced. And it was because, okay, wait, so, and I mentioned this in class too before, it's like, oh wait, but they're not gonna get married, they're becoming a woman, so it's like, let's do light pink. Well, then my quinceañera comes, and then I'm like, no, it was a thing already, you were starting to see where it was like, well, this girl had a turquoise dress, and this girl had like a purple dress, and I was like, I want that too, I wanted to do something new. It was like, okay, so one went from white to pink, and it was like, well, now I want to match my like surroundings, so it's kind of like, all right, well, and then my abuelita would be like, no, mija, no, like, Rosita, and I'd be like, I didn't want that. So then it took me a while. So I told my mom, I was like, it's because I don't want a Rosita dress. I want like a dress that like shows and like, exactly. And it was kind of like, all right, fine. It was literally, so I went and I picked it out, and it was kind of like I don't know, I felt like I was like rebelling from like because it had black on it too, so it was kind of like my mom's side, she was like, what? And I was like, look, so and it was a fuchsia dress, it still had pink, it had like the girly feminine touch to it, but it was kind of like, but it's my way, it's the way that I'm gonna express myself, so it's like, all right, it's pink, and then like the little like belt, it's black. So it's kind of like, look at me, like it was kind of, I don't know, I felt like I was like, because black is not, you wouldn't see like so you have white, right, beautiful, white, pure, and it's like black, and it's like, what the, like you know, it's not really.
It's very dark.
Exactly. So, but I loved it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Love that.
Yes,
Love that. So basically, like, overall, vestido could mean like your glorious dress, princess dress.
Mm-hmm.
The color can vary depending on who you are and how you take the tradition. So it could be somewhat altered or changed somehow depending on who you are. I know that there's girls who are strictly like, I need the white because the white just represents my virginity.
Yes.
My purity. The pink, like how you said, while they're not getting married, you know, white should normally be representing marriage, of course, because that's what we typically think of when we think of white dresses, big gowns, beautiful princess dresses. We think of marriage, right? And that's not what's going on. You know, you wouldn't want an outsider to think, wow, look at that beautiful bride, and but in reality, she's 15 and she's just becoming of age.
Another thing, too, to add on to that, it was kind of like, well, since I'm becoming a woman, I'm going to make my own decisions now. So it's kind of like, well, when I went to pick out my dress, it was my decision. It was what I wanted. It wasn't like my abuelita couldn't tell me, like, no, mija, you can't do this, or my mom couldn't tell me, like, no, you can't do that. Like, if I'm going to become a woman and I'm going to have my own responsibilities now, I want to pick my dress. You know, like, it comes in with that, too. Like, it's like a kind of like control, like,
you can make your own decisions.
This is my time. So
and you know what you want. You're no longer a little girl where you need your parents to pick and choose what they think you're gonna like.
Yes, exactly.
And for you to just conform to what they're giving you. Now you want to show them, hey, this is who I am.
Yes.
I'm if I'm gonna turn 15, I might as well be able to pick and choose my own stuff.
In fact, my abuelita, when she saw me, she was like, "Ay, hijita." I was like, "I don't care, abuelita. Look, you still love me." She was like, "Yes."
What do you do with the dress after the use? Do you just keep it? Maybe pass it down?
No, I kept it. It stayed, since my party was in Mexico. It stayed in Mexico, but it's there. I kept it. It's mine, and it hasn't been passed down. And my sister is next for the quinceañera, and she has her own style, so I think she'll probably like get something else. So I think it's my dress, and I think it's gonna stay like that, and we're not gonna pass it down. It just
because it's yours.
It's mine.
It's kind of like a memory, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions because off of research I did find a couple things that I thought was interesting. When it comes to genders and being a woman, is there like expectations? Like, do they expect, for example, did they expect you to be a virgin, or did they expect you to have a vals? Was there like set expectations? Were they expecting something because of the fact that you were a woman?
So definitely, I think that in general, quinceañera is seen like a princess. And what is a princess? Your typical like, oh, like, here's my high heels and here's my makeup. You get dolled up and everything. So there was expectations of. I mean, I'm not gonna walk in my PJs with my hair and stuff like. There is an expectation where you're gonna have a quinceañera.
You're gonna be beautiful.
Exactly. Here's your dress. Here's this. In fact, if so in the pictures too. I have a corset. Like my dress is a corset. Corset is very, very, like, at least how I see it, very feminine. Where women have always used it. Like back then, it was like women would use them so tight to show their features. So it's kind of like and my dress had that too. Like it was like really tight from the back. So
they expected you to be very beautiful, presented, feminine. Very fragile doll.
Exactly,
looking.
Yeah, well, in fact, I mean, even just like, why don't they say like, oh, quinceañeras should present themselves with pants and a shirt? Like, why? So it's a dress, you know, it's like a princess, literally.
The femininity part, and they expect you to transition from being a little rebellious girl who just plays and wants to go outside and enjoy herself to somebody who now has to take care of her appearance.
Yes, exactly.
And the way she looks and the way she carries herself and stuff like that.
Yes.
Was there like any like specific roles? For example, like, did you ever think, well, did you have to have chambelanes, or did you have to have like a chambelan? Like, is there also that expectation that you have to have a chambelan, or that you have to have like a male representation to validate you? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. Well, in my quinceañera, I did have that. It was to like a little side story. When my dad put my high heel on, it was my dad. It wasn't like it was a man.
Yeah.
So it was, and I'm the girl. So it's what's that showing? It's kind of like the princess, you know, where the Cinderella gets her like high heel on. So there's another part too. And then with that, with the like all, it shows. So with me, it was more so 4 boys, and with me it was more like I wanted to be the princess, like I mentioned earlier. But I mean, seeing it that way, it looks like you don't need men like to represent you. It could you could, but in a quinceañera, typically in Mexico, like Mexican and traditional, you usually have that man that represents you, or you have a court with men in it. Does that make sense?
So it's very like heteronormative feeling.
It does, yes.
Where it's man, woman, and we all have roles as a woman. Definitely. We all have roles as a man.
Exactly, because when you dance, you usually in my quinceañera it was like that. So I danced with my 4 chambelanes. And all the quinceañeras that I've been to, they've all had men and like women, or like if they have a court, they have a girl and a guy that they dance with each other. So definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always have to be that way. Maybe like sometimes it does change. Like now it probably might.
Yeah, because I think you had mentioned before in this interview that if you didn't have a male figure, you could use your mom.
Exactly.
To dance with your mom.
Exactly.
When your waltz, when it came to the dad's daughter waltz.
Yes.
If you didn't have a dad, you would use your mother. You would improvise.
Exactly. Like it could be. It definitely. Like I mentioned. So it was the mom who the quinceañera danced with. So it was someone. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't always have to be that way. Like Mexican traditionally though, like if you go to like a tradition like in Mexico, you usually do see that though, like a man, like the father.
Yeah.
Like the father
or it's
figure,
it feels like you need a man to present to you.
Definitely.
It's kind of like I feel like, for example, kind of like the mom stands to the side waiting for the dad, because it's very heteronormative. He's in charge of the family.
Definitely.
He's the one that's going to present to you. Instead of it being your mom and your dad presenting you, it was more like, well, the father figure is the one that's supposed to like, get up and say,
exactly.
This is my daughter and I'm presenting her to all you people. Yes. It's very, because it gets that feeling where it's kind of like, well, your chambelán isn't going to be a girl either. Or,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Or you're not going to have like different, like you're not going to have, or for example, was your choreographer for your vals a woman?
No,
it was a boy?
Yeah.
It
was my cousin though.
Okay.
It was between, so the Watts who like made the choreograph, it was between, so it was my older cousin who like directed it, and he was like, all right, this is gonna happen, but then I would add in my like things to it. I'd be like, well, no, look, I want to do this, but it wasn't because I know I've seen like where it's like, oh, we're gonna contract like a choreographer, a professional. No, it wasn't like that. It was literally like because it was a really small course, so it was kind of like my older cousin, who was like, all right, we're gonna do this and that, and I'd be like, well, let me add my details in. So yeah, it was my guy cousin.
Yeah.
Who was able.
Yeah, because from what I've read, typically it's like a girl who teaches the choreography, a girl who teaches you guys how to do the waltz and stuff. Or like when it comes to your chambelán, it's usually a boy. Or when it comes to your parents, it's always going to be a man and a woman.
Man. Yes.
You're never going to expect 2 men or 2 women.
With me, so it was so my chambelán man, so my main chambelán man, and then my court, so in general, so it was 4, and then my dad, so man, and then the choreographer was a man. But that same older cousin though, he had been in other quinceañeras too, so he knew what he was doing. It wasn't kind of like I'm here out blind. I'm just gonna, He had, well, in fact, he was, my older cousin was the main chambelanes for the other 2 cousins that I mentioned earlier. So the first one with the white dress, and then the second one with the light pink dress. Yeah. He was their main chambelán. Yeah. So he already had experience in that. That's the reason when it came to mine, I was kind of like, well, I know what I'm doing, so let me. So yeah.
Yeah. So overall, you do feel like girls have a certain role to play, and guys have a certain role to play. But sometimes it's kind of like not too thought of too thoroughly, because if it has to be changed, it's okay to change it.
Well, like just talking with you, I realized a lot of things, like, wow, that is true, or like, wow, I do see this and that. Like, yeah, definitely there is, because just even like the high heel, like that's not like a dress, like corset, like mentioning all those things that definitely does show like that is, so it's like princess, like you mentioned earlier.
It's very feminine,
Yeah.
gender-based, sex-based.
Yes, exactly.
Tradition. Okay. And then this is gonna be my last and final question.
Okay.
I just want to go ahead and tell you, like, thank you so much for coming and letting me interview you.
Thank you.
But basically, what I am doing this research on is just to pretty much compare you to somebody else and see if maybe the tradition has changed or if it's the same. I am aware that yours has been in the last 5 years. I think the next person I'm going to interview is going to be a little bit further back. But I will be comparing you. And in your opinion, I just want to get your opinion on how have you seen this tradition changed? Have you seen it change? Have you seen it continue the same way?
Yes, definitely. It's changed. It like there was a lot of points mentioned earlier that the dress, just the dress alone, it was white, from white to light pink, and now it's like to whatever you want, like the all the colors. That changed. That kind of evolved. It was just kind of like, all right, what's gonna be this color, and then it changed to that color.
Yeah.
So, and within that time too, and I saw it too. Like I physically, like, and I personally saw it, so I experienced it. It was just with my 2 older cousins, like I saw it, and it came to me, and it was kind of like boom, and so that was one thing. The muñeca, the doll. With me, I did the Barbie. I was able to throw it and everything. Now I don't see that. Usually I see like a really big muñeca that looks like the quinceañera, and I mean it's too big to throw. They don't throw it.
Yeah.
They actually end up keeping that doll. Is what
So they kind of don't do anything with it.
Yeah, they don't do anything with it. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's another different thing too.
What about were there things that they do now that they didn't do before? I feel like, for example, nowadays, how do you feel about the vals nowadays? Like,
oh, the vals. All right, so perfect. So now what they do, the valses now, they have surprise dances. I didn't have a surprise dance in mind. Yeah, there was no surprise dance. You know, have you seen those where it's like they like it's like, all right, like we're done with the waltz, but boom, and then like they come out with like a hip hop like this. Yeah, I didn't have that, and it's very used. Yeah, now it's a requirement too. Like I see that everywhere I go now. All the quinceañeras, they all have that surprise dance.
Yeah.
El baile sorpresa. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Yes,
the baile
yes,
sorpresa.
Yes.
Interesting.
So that's another thing that now like they do that. That used to not be a thing.
Yeah. So, just to wrap up everything, do you feel like my question just like left my head. Did you other Jesus, that question just left my head like it was mid-air. Yeah, but overall, I just feel like you feel like you've seen it change in significance. Maybe for some things. I have my question now. Do you feel that because it's so popular to have a quinceañera that it lost its tradition? Or that it's become more of a pop culture instead of a traditional, like it's coming from Mexican roots instead of like it feeling like the next girl who doesn't know anything about the culture, doesn't come from the culture, is having a quinceañera. Do you feel like the fact that because they've become, or have they become more popular than they have before, and has that changed the significance to it?
Okay, so for me personally, I think that any quinceañera, okay, if we're adding like the pop culture, all that stuff, so you have like the expensive nails, the expensive this and that, maybe that can all be like under that category. But I feel like the traditions are still there. The values, the beliefs are still there. I mean, just in class we watched documentaries where it was different types of quinceañeras around here, and each one had within this, like, at the end of the day, they all had the same, like, small details, like the muñeca, and you had the crown, and you had the high heels, and that's still, the vestido, exactly, and that's still not lost. Like, we still have that. So even if I don't necessarily see like, oh, you have to be Mexican to have a quinceañera. I mean, you're becoming 15, and if you want that quinceañera, have it. You know,
Yeah.
like it's still within that, like the traditions are still there that are being used. So I don't think it's gotten lost, or I feel like the significance still goes through. In fact, I think it's beautiful that Mexican roots and like the Mexican culture and like that specific tradition is being passed around like everywhere. That people are finding out about this. It's beautiful, and it's like, well, yeah, like come in, like you go ahead and do that too, and it's really pretty. It's like, well, where does this tradition originally come from? Oh, Mexico, and it's a sweet thing. So I don't think it has lost its significance. I think in fact it's greater. It's sweeter now.
It's broadened.
Yeah, exactly.
It incorporates everybody and allows everybody to feel what it's like.
Exactly.
To be valued through a transition of feeling like you're transitioning into a woman.
Yes.
Awesome.
Exactly.
All right, Anna, thank you so much for taking your time to let me interview you.
Thank you.
We have finally come to an end with our interview, and I just want to say that I'm glad to hear that you very much enjoyed your quinceañera and that you were able to take the time to basically be here.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for interviewing me.
Yep.